2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in. It's Tuesday. It's only Tuesday, but it's a glorious Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and as always, streaming on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. 888-710-4476. I was at Madison Square Garden last night when that game started and Derek White was unconscious to begin the game. I thought it. You thought it. Uh-oh. This is going to be Game 3, Knicks Celtics all over again. And then going into the third quarter, I sent a tweet out there. And I think like Jalen Brunson at half, it was either 13 or 14 points. I said if the Knicks are going to win, Jalen Brunson is going to need to go get 32 points. That was the number that I just had in my mind that Jalen Brunson needed to explode, needed to get to, in order to give the chance for the Knicks to come on back and win the game. Now, at some point, I think it was at the end of the third quarter, I looked up after Jalen Brunson exploded in the third, and the Knicks maybe played their best third quarter ever, outscoring the Boston Celtics 37-23. Definitely the best third quarter in the Tom Thibodeau era. And I then followed up and put another tweet out. Add 10 to that, Brunson's already at 29. What Jalen Brunson did last night, if you're still one of those dopes, and let's be real, last postseason it happened, this postseason it happened, where people doubt Jalen Brunson. People fail to call him a star. This guy was voted the most clutch player in the league this year. And because his name isn't, Anthony Edwards, LeBron James, Jayson Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, people are still reluctant to call this guy a top 10 player in the NBA, and people still elect to doubt Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, last night, with the series on the line, folks, and I know some people could say, oh, Zach, it was 2-1 Knicks. If they lose that game, it's 2-2. No, folks. If that game was a Celtics victory and the Boston Celtics tied up that series at 2 apiece, you know it and I know it, everyone would have picked against the Knicks the rest of the way. Now the New York Knicks are up 3-1. And they're up 3-1. Sure, Mikal Bridges was awesome to start the fourth quarter. Sure, Karl Anthony Towns, who looked lost in the first half, he came alive in the second half. Let's not shortchange those players. Let's give Mikal Bridges his flowers. Let's give Karl Anthony Towns his flowers. But the Knicks' renaissance is because of Jalen Brunson. And this dude is an absolute dog in the playoffs. 39 points, 14 of 25 from the field, 4 of 8 from behind the charity stripe, 12 assists as well. And the New York Knicks, they take game 4. They take the commanding series lead 3-1. And they take the Boston Celtics down $121 to 113 at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. And I told you folks yesterday, I'm addicted to a big-time sports event. I made sure, I'll sound like Christopher Mad Dog Russo here for a second, my fanny was in the building last night. And trust me, it was very nice when I was in that building and I got to get the Garden Burger, which the Garden Burger is tremendous. I got to get the sushi last night. It was bougie Zach last night in a luxury box. There was charcuterie, right? There was waffle fries. There was a lot of good food that I had last night at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. But that building, being in there, with also a few whiskey gingers in the system, if I may add, and just hearing the fans chant defense, or hearing the go New York, go, and that song being played, that building was electrifying. And there were stars in that building last night. Obviously, I'm just kidding. But there was actual stars in the building last night. I may or may not, and I'll get into this conversation later, may or may not saw a Jenner walk past me last night. Wasn't Kylie, but it was Kendall. But it was awesome to see how this city has really rallied around this basketball team. And you know what makes this so fun? The Knicks were a punchline to every joke for the last 2 decades. Quite frankly, in my lifetime, the New York Knicks have sucked. Quite frankly, in my lifetime, the New York Knicks have been an embarrassment, have been a laughingstock to the NBA, and it's always been other players coming to New York on the visiting team, dominating in Madison Square Garden, and then after the game saying, hey, nothing like playing in New York. So pretty much what the Garden became, pretty much what the Knicks became, we were like the buddy's house that everyone loved going to. The rich buddy's house, right? He's got the bowling alley. He's got the basketball court. He's got the best food. He's got the chef. He's got the maid, right? He's got the 8-9 bro TV setup. And all the buddies would come, right? We were like Gatsby, pretty much. You all come to our house. You put your feet up, you drink our beer, you eat our filet mignon, you kick our ass, and you take home our woman afterwards. That's what you would do. And then Gatsby, the Knicks would be sitting there, SOL, just by themselves, but at least you threw a great party. Whoop-de-damn-do. Right? That's what the Knicks were. But now, not only are the Knicks throwing the party, but everyone wants to have the Knicks be the event. And the Knicks are actually the conversation. The Knicks are actually the main topic. It's not, oh, I just like going to the Garden to play at the Garden. It's one of the great sport turnarounds that we've seen. And it's still a long ways to go, right? Unfortunate Jayson Tatum injury. We still don't know what exactly happened. Everyone and then their mother thinks it's an Achilles injury. And obviously, you never want to see a star like Jayson Tatum get hurt because let's be real, as great as Brunson was last night, Jayson Tatum was just as good. That dude was 16 to 28 from the field. That dude was 7 to 16 from 3. That dude had 42 points. And OG Anunoby stole the ball. Tatum falls down. OG throws down that jam. And the next thing you know, as everyone's celebrating the Garden, you turn around, you look around, and you say, well, what the heck happened to Jayson Tatum? And that looks like an Achilles injury. You know, it felt like the same way when you watched Aaron Rodgers get hurt on that Monday Night Football game up against the Buffalo Bills, the way that he was grabbing that Achilles area and the pain that you saw that Jayson Tatum was in. And Jayson Tatum reminded everyone last night in that performance the star he is and why a lot of people consider him a top 5 player in the NBA. So clearly our best wishes to Jayson Tatum. But you look at this New York Knicks team. I said this when they went up 2-0, and I'll double down on it again today. This is the first time in my lifetime that I could remember where I could actually have expectations and legitimate expectations that the New York Knicks should be playing in June and will be in the NBA Finals. Now, I understand. Pacers up 3-1. They're looking to close out the Cavs. I think the Pacers will find a way to get one more victory. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Indiana Pacers. I think Tyrese Halliburton, he's not overrated. He is criminally underrated. And, right, there's a lot of similarities with the Pacers and the Knicks, right? Totally two different markets, totally two different franchises. But you have two players in Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton that have completely changed both of those franchises. And they continuously get disrespected. And both of those teams are extremely gritty, and they're fun to watch. But, yeah, I'd be lying to you right now, assuming the Knicks get one more and the Pacers get one more. The Knicks are going to have home court advantage. The Knicks are going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. And even though the Knicks, who got hurt last year, and right, that's part of the game, it's injuries. You know, they lost to the Pacers last year in the semifinals. The Knicks should beat the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So for someone that is 30 years old, not that I'm decrepit, right? I turned 31 in August. I've seen enough sports. But that also illustrates the point how bad the Knicks have been for so many years. How much of a laughingstock that they are, that in a big city like New York with a big brand like the New York Knicks, that this is the first time I could say it, and now the second time since I said it when they were up 2-0, where I legitimately believe and legitimately can say the Knicks should be in the NBA Finals. And, right, you don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it's sports talk radio. This is what we do. We speculate. We have fun. And imagine if the Knicks are in the NBA Finals and they're going up against Minnesota. Imagine if you have the Knicks, the Nova Knicks, with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson going up against Dante DiVincenzo, who's a former Knick, and also another former Knick and Julius Randle, because the Minnesota Timberwolves are now up 3-1. Imagine if it's not the Timberwolves and it's the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you get Isaiah Hartenstein, who was on the Knicks last year, going up against the Knicks in the NBA Finals. If OKC could hold on up against the Denver Nuggets, right? This is as easy as a road for the Knicks to get to the finals as you could remember, and it's their best chance. And did we expect this going into the NBA postseason? Absolutely not. Now, before the season, there was championship expectations for the Knicks. We all knew Boston was the best team in the East, right? That's what everyone said. But after that, the Knicks were regarded probably as the second best team in the East. When you, this offseason, got Karl Anthony Towns, and you got Mikal Bridges to add to a core that featured already an OG Anunoby who you retained, a Jalen Brunson. and you have Josh Hart there. But this is a team that even though before the playoffs they said, oh, they win the first round, they lose to Boston in 6, expectations change. And the turnaround for this franchise felt, I don't want to say complete, but felt tangible and felt real when this team was up 2-0 up against Boston. And now you could talk and now you could dream about playing in the NBA Finals. And if you're in the NBA Finals, then you could dream about hoisting up that Larry O'Brien trophy. But I got to give a lot of credit to James Dolan. Think about that. Is this microphone on? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I am giving credit to James Dolan. And here's why. Yes, Mr. Dolan has been the punchline to many jokes, and deservedly so. Yes, most of us have eviscerated Mr. Dolan for things that he has done, and deservedly so, in the past. And this franchise was down and out. This franchise was pretty much knocked out. And we were seeing if they could ever get off the mat. We were seeing if they could ever have some sustained success and some consistency. And James Dolan did something unconventional. He hired a longtime agent in Leon Rose. It wasn't highly regarded when the move was made. There were former Knicks that were blasting the move on this network. And then guess what? Leon Rose is all about relationships. And Leon's first client was Rick Brunson. Rick Brunson, right? Jalen's father, the Roses and the Brunsons are practically family. And Leon believed in Jalen more than anybody. And now look at what the two of them have done, where Leon has brought respect and stability back to this organization. And he trusted a player that wasn't viewed as a star. And now Jalen Brunson is one clutch star that has elevated the Knicks and has returned the New York Knicks back to not only respectability, but an organization that's had back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time since Pat Riley was the frickin' coach. And now, up 3-1 against the Boston Celtics in the second round of the playoffs, you'd be a damn fool to not start thinking about not only the Knicks playing the Eastern Conference Finals, but then the NBA Finals. And it's one of the best stories going right now in sports, the return of the Knicks. And why did it happen? Dolan trusted Leon. Leon trusted the Brunsons. And now the Knicks, they have a legitimate chance to be playing in June. And the expectation is they will be playing in June, because they should be able to secure 5 more victories. And if you get 5 more victories, you're off to the NBA Finals. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful sports story that, let's be real, none of us, and I mean none of us, 4 or 5 years ago could have ever predicted it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a time out. When we do return, I'm at the game last night. Ready? I'm going up to the luxury box, and I'm getting set to really lock in and gear up for Knicks and Celtics. Huge event, Game 4 at Madison Square Garden. And I forgot, even though I talked about it on the air yesterday, that the lottery was happening. And when I found out who won the lottery, I was happy for one reason and really irate for another reason. I'll tell you who I was happy for and who was I unhappy for when the Zach Gelb Show continues in 5 minutes on a very happy Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll get back more to the Knicks Celtics, the aftermath from last night, as now New York is up 3-1 up against the defending champs, and no official word yet on Jayson Tatum, but let's be real. We all thought he ruptured his Achilles last night. You also had the draft lottery last night, and the results came on in. Now, when I saw it, someone said to me in passing, did you see the Mavericks won, when I was making my my way through the Garden last night. You see the Mavericks won the lottery. And I looked up and I said, excuse me? The who won the lottery? Like, we talked about the lottery yesterday. And I sat and I said, I would like to see the Spurs win the lottery. I thought that would be fun because you got Victor Wembanyama, you got Castle, you got Fox. You go put Cooper Flag on that team. You know, there's talks about maybe they go trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. You could maybe use that pick as draft capital or go get Giannis Antetokounmpo, or you could keep a Cooper Flag if you got the number 1 overall pick. Right? I wanted to see the Spurs because I like the Spurs' young core, and I think the Spurs are on the rise once again. So once I heard that the Mavericks got it, and then I realized that this wasn't a prank and this was legitimate information, here is my reaction. That SOB, Nico Harrison, and that's the nicest thing I could say about Nico Harrison, does not deserve the number 1 overall pick. And it's a damn shame that Nico Harrison now gets the number 1 overall pick, where I'm not going to call Cooper Flag a generational talent, but Cooper Flag is expected to be an NBA star. So now his reward in Nico Harrison for trading away Luka Doncic for basically pennies on the dollar in his prime, a year after going to the NBA Finals, is you're going to go get Cooper Flag. So I was annoyed that Nico Harrison basically got Cooper Flag last night with a 1.8% chance to do so. But on the other hand, I was also happy for Mavs fans because Mavs fans were beaten down. Mavs fans were run over by their dopey, idiotic, moronic general manager who thought he was the smartest dude in the room, and he ended up being the dumbest guy in the NBA by trading away Luka Doncic. And now those Mavs fans who were down and out, who were disgusted to be Mavs fans, maybe this gets them back on board where you're never going to trust, you're never going to like Nico Harrison, and you're going to pray 5 years from now if Nico Harrison's still running the team that he doesn't trade Cooper Flag for basically nothing like he did for Luka Doncic. But at least you could get a player now that you could rally around and support once again, because the player that you beloved should have never been taken away from you. So even though I was miserable last night that Nico Harrison got a gift from the NBA and got the number 1 overall pick, I can find some happiness for Dallas Mavericks fans who wanted no part of Luka Doncic being traded and quite frankly wanted no more part of Nico Harrison. And at least they get the number 1 overall pick, and hopefully this could help rebuild the Dallas Mavericks, who do have Kyrie Irving, who do have Anthony Davis, and we'll see what happens in this offseason and who's going to be with this team this upcoming year. And, right, injuries happened as well. But with that being said, you also just hope that this could be start of a rebuild or a retooling, I guess, is the best way to say, when, quite frankly, this organization should be nowhere close to be thinking about a retooling stage because they should still have Luka Doncic. So that's the way that I felt about it last night. My first thought was F Nico Harrison, that lucky son of a bitch. And then on the other hand, it was, you know what? I could actually be happy for Dallas Mavericks fans. Now, 3 things here. Stu, do you think the NBA draft lottery is rigged? Because a lot of people last night are throwing out this whole notion, this is the NBA saving the Dallas Mavericks. The NBA was in on this idiotic trade of getting Luka Doncic to the Lakers, get a star to LA, and their reward for Nico Harrison doing something that's so inexcusable is, okay, we'll give you the number 1 pick so you could go get Cooper Flag. Do you believe any bit for 1 second, you being a Laker fan too, that the NBA is rigged?
The draft lottery, I used to think it was rigged, but I think enough people report.
Stu used to be a conspiracy theorist.
I used to be, but enough people, especially like our own Bill Ryder, they've been in a room where
that's true.
This whole thing happened. It's not rigged. I can see why people think it's rigged because of like a scenario like this where the Spurs and Mavericks were the top 2 teams. I could see it, but I don't think it's rigged now.
Samter, do you think the NBA draft lottery is rigged?
No, there's people in the room, unbiased media people who are in the room watching it.
Maybe they're getting a cut. Maybe Bill's getting a cut. They call him Big Bucks Bill. You know, that's what I hear. Big Bucks Bill get $100,000 from Adam Silver. You tell me Bill ain't taking that to keep his mouth shut?
I mean, Ryder is, he's a sketchy character. You never know.
You think he's sketchy?
No, I'm just.
I don't
joking.
think Bill said. Bill, if you're listening, The views of Michael Samter do not reflect the views of Zach Gelb and the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity
What do you mean?
Sports
I got
Network.
that quote directly from you before the show.
No. Now Mike is like Pinocchio. His nose is hitting the glass right in front of him. He's just
Now you're
lying
saying
to
I have
the
a big
listening
nose?
audience.
What's going on here? No.
I'm just being honest here.
No. Guys like Bill and other writers who were in that room, like, it's legit. Like, maybe it was not legit with the Patrick Ewing and the Knicks thing back in 1980, whatever.
Freezing the envelope.
Yes, the frozen envelope. Like, that's certainly possible. But since then, because of all the concerns, there
I
are
agree.
people in the room, there are independent eyes on that to make sure the lottery goes fairly and accurately. So I don't. I just think it's crazy luck. Nico Harrison got saved. It is absolutely insane that this guy is going to get rewarded for his idiocy. It's unbelievable to me.
He should be kissing the ground today, Nico Harrison. Hey, he really should be. Can I have what isn't a hot take, but I think it's a right take, and see what you guys think about this one? And I've said this for years. So how many times when it comes to the NFL, we get people that say, oh, we need a lottery system. Nights like last night is why I don't think we need a lottery system in any sport. I'm not a fan. I like the presentation of the lottery. I like the announcement of the lottery because it's fun television. But the actual idea of it, I don't like. Right? If you want to be horrible, and if you want to go get the number 1 overall pick, and you want to go secure that number 1 overall pick, and you want to intentionally lose games, I don't think players intentionally lose games. I don't think coaches intentionally lose games. General manager and ownership situations, they do. But I don't think in any sport, out of the 4 major sports, that we should have a lottery system. I just think how the standings are at the end of the season, right? Who's ever the worst should get the number 1 overall pick. And I'm glad that the NFL, for now, it could change, you never know, that the NFL hasn't kind of genuflected to the NHL and the NBA when they do this lottery. Because if I was a fan of, let's say, one of the teams that had the top 3 highest odds to get the number 1 pick, I think the Wizards were one of them. They ended up getting the 6th pick. Like, what hope do you have? You sucked, and you got no reward for being a horrible basketball team. I know people say, well, we shouldn't reward teams for losing. But the Mavericks get the number 1 overall pick with a 1.8% chance to do so? I'm sorry. If you go through the pain of a horrible, miserable season, you should at least get some benefit. And I absolutely hate the fact that this lottery ends up happening in the NBA. That's just me. What are your thoughts on it, Snoop?
I totally agree with you. I think it's, like you said, the Wizards are a great example because they were expected to be very bad. Going into the season, they were very bad. I think they had the second highest. They're tied for the first, but they had the second worst record. Mm-hmm. And they got nothing for it, and it's just not fair. Meanwhile, in the NFL,
it was Utah, Washington, and Charlotte.
Yeah.
So Utah ended up getting the 5th pick. Charlotte got the 4th pick, and Washington got the 6th pick. 4, 5, 6. Like, come on. What are we doing there? That to me, that's why I do not like the lottery. Samter, where you at on this one? Are you a big lottery guy?
Huge. Because the NBA, we've seen that one player can change an entire franchise more so than any other sport. And
I
to
disagree
me,
with that.
I'm not saying that it gets rid of tanking, but it devalues the importance and the necessariness of tanking. Right? Like, if you
does it? But hold on. A few years ago, remember, like this whole we changed the lottery system. It was the play-in tournament. The play-in tournament, so teams wouldn't tank. And the Dallas Mavericks 2 years ago, they intentionally lost games at the end of the season because they had no one active to try to improve their lottery odds. So, like, does it really prevent tanking?
It doesn't fully prevent tanking, but what it does is, like, if you're the Wizards or Utah...
Doesn't give you a guarantee.
Yeah, if you're the Wizards in Utah and you're just, like, the race to the bottom, you also know that, like, there's no point in trying to race to the bottom because you're still only going to give yourself an extra 5% or 4% chance of the number 1 overall pick. So you still want to, like, put out a respectable product so that your fans come to games, there's hope for the future. But, like, this exactly is why tanking doesn't really happen in the NBA because as long as you don't make the playoffs, anything can happen, and you could be the worst team in the NBA and get the 4th pick, or you could be the Mavericks who were basically about to be in the playoffs before the trade, and now you get the 1st pick. It gives a little bit more excitement to it, and it just takes away that incentive for teams because in the NBA it's so critical that one player can change an entire franchise more so than any other sport.
I still you said that now twice. I still think the NFL quarterback, if you get the right quarterback, that could change a franchise greater than one NBA player. How many you don't see? And I know what you're going to say. You got to get the right team around him. One NBA player rarely wins a championship, right? We had Kawhi, right? He was one NBA player in Toronto that won a championship. Now you really need bare minimum 2 stars to go win an NBA championship. And it feels like more so 2.5 stars. You have to have like some resemblance. It's been a dynamic duos the last few years, but then the third player has to be maybe a half a star or something like that. So I would, and look, the NFL doesn't do a draft lottery. And I'm sure that will change in future years because the NFL would do anything to get more money, and someone will pay a lot of money to probably air like the lottery night or something for the NFL draft. And I'll hate it.
And you're right that a great quarterback can legitimately change the culture of an organization and their trajectory, but you still have 21 other starters that you have to worry about, plus reserves. Whereas in the NBA, you're one of 5 on the court at all times. You play offense and defense. So a quarterback only plays one side of the ball. He's one of 22 plus reserves. So, like, yes, a quarterback can turn around a franchise, but you need to have good receivers, a good O-line, and a good defense if you're going to win championships.
You know, just looking back at, let's do it post-LeBron, right? Because LeBron obviously is that one example, changed an entire direction of our franchise. Dwight Howard, right? The Magic made a finals. Andrew Bogut, no. Andrea Bargnani, no. Greg Oden, no. Derrick Rose won an MVP with the Bulls, right? Blake Griffin with the Clippers. They had some success, but I don't think Blake Griffin was as great as what people thought. John Wall did a nice job with the Wizards, but injury concerns. Kyrie Irving going to the Cavs. When LeBron came back, okay, fine. Anthony Davis with the Hornets, like, good player, but it's not like the Hornets were like this unbelievable team that ever had a championship shot. Anthony Bennett with the Cavs, no. Wiggins with the Cavs, he ended up getting traded for Kevin Love. Karl Anthony Towns with the Timberwolves, they had some good teams. Ben Simmons with the Sixers, changed the direction in a bad way. Markelle Fultz with the Sixers, same thing. DeAndre Ayton with the Suns, they made a championship with them, have NBA Finals with them, but he never really lived up to the hype fully. Zion Williamson has been more disappointing than a great player. Anthony Edwards, that's a franchise-changing player. Cade Cunningham, Pistons had a good year this year. Paolo Banchero, that's a Magic team that you think are upcoming. Wembanyama, a little too early to tell, but he looks like he's going to be great. And then Zachary Ross-Ashir of the Atlanta Hawks, too early to tell. You know, it's kind of crazy when you go through all that and how, I don't want to say little impact, but how there's been a lot of number 1 picks in the NBA that have been very disappointing.
I will just tell you this. You know the last time that a quarterback went number 1 overall and won a Super Bowl with the team that drafted him?
When?
1998, Peyton Manning.
Wow. Now, let's just do this. So, do you have all the number 1 picks?
Yes.
Okay. And it has to be quarterback.
Yes. I'm looking at only quarterbacks as number 1 picks.
So, since 2003, just give me the quarterbacks that went number 1 overall.
Carson Palmer.
He was good, but, let's be real, the Bengals never won jack.
Eli Manning.
2 Super Bowl championships, yep.
But technically drafted by the Chargers.
Yeah, stop.
No, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but he was traded to the Giants, sure. And Phillip Rivers was great for the Chargers, sure.
Alex Smith.
Good player, but not a number 1 worthy player. If they would have drafted Rodgers, probably different conversation.
The greatest number 1 overall pick of all time, Jamarcus Russell.
It changed the direction like Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons, not in a good way.
Matthew Stafford.
Very good player, obviously. Had some successful winning seasons with the Lions, but the Lions are a disaster.
Sam Bradford.
He changed the draft system because of how much money he stole.
Yes, and was always hurt and just kept getting contracts. It's crazy. If you look at Sam Bradford and how much money he made over his career versus how many games he actually played, it's insane.
Yeah, it's wild.
Cam Newton in 2011.
Did change that franchise in Carolina.
Sure.
They made a Super Bowl with him, won an MVP.
Sure. Andrew Luck.
Was on his way.
Sure.
Andrew Luck, he made an AFC championship game. You can't name 4 players on that roster. So, yeah, they were down and out post-Manning. And he did a good job, but injuries did him in.
Jameis Winston.
Changed a lot of corners' lives. Made them richer.
Yeah, he certainly did. Jared Goff.
Took him to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
But let's be real, wasn't
doing
a
a
star.
good job with the Lions.
Yeah, it wasn't a star, though.
Yep. Baker Mayfield.
Did get Cleveland a playoff victory, but underappreciated in Cleveland. Fair.
Kyler Murray.
More so a bust than a success.
Joe Burrow.
Made a Super Bowl. Yeah, did change that franchise. Couldn't win a playoff game.
Trevor Lawrence.
Has been disappointing.
Bryce Young.
We'll see what happens after this year.
Caleb Williams.
We'll see what happens after this year.
And Cam Ward.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't played yet.
So
it's kind of crazy in both the NBA and the NFL when because it was quarterback compared to players, right? There's other number one picks that have changed franchises. How there's a lot of situations you look at and you go, ooh, you're picking number one? And yikes. To further my point, that's why if a team wants to intentionally lose, they should be allowed to do so because it's not even a guarantee if you get the number one pick that it's going to be a great player. That's just the way that I look at it. Anyway, we'll take a break. When we come on back, the Timberwolves are up 3-1. Also, I want to continue this draft lottery conversation with the order now of the picks. Who should be calling up the Milwaukee Bucks and offering up that pick for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Two teams come to mind. We'll get into that next. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you could save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Trey Hendrickson showed up for the voluntary part of the Bengals offseason, but said he won't play the final year on his contract. The 30-year-old sack leader is looking for a new deal, but said yesterday the team has not had any contact with him since the NFL draft. More schedule announcements today. The 6-game international schedule. The first game will be September 5th back in Sao Paulo, featuring the Chargers and a to-be-determined opponent, while the Vikings will be the first team to play back-to-back weeks internationally in two different countries, facing the Steelers in Dublin on September 28th and the Browns in London the following Sunday. The Pacers are one win away from returning to the conference finals. They take on the Cavaliers in Cleveland up 3-1 on the top seed. The Cavs' Donovan Mitchell questionable with an ankle injury. The Thunder and Nuggets meet in Oklahoma City with that series even at 2. In hockey tonight, the Stars and Jets, the only game on the schedule, with Dallas hosting Game 4 up 2-1 and welcoming back defenseman Miro Heiskanen. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly is celebrating all who go above and beyond during Military Appreciation Month. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/celebrate. Our members are the mission. This week's player is Oilers goaltender Stuart Kovacs Skinner. In last night's 3-0 victory over the Golden Knights, Skinner saved all 23 shots that came his way, helping Edmonton go up 3-1 in the series. I'll just throw something out there. Got two little thoughts here. So the Dallas Mavericks have the number 1 overall pick of the NBA draft. The San Antonio Spurs have the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. If you are the Milwaukee Bucks or if you are the Dallas Mavericks, who places the phone call first, in your opinion? If you're Dallas, would you be interested in giving up that number 1 overall pick, saying goodbye to the idea of drafting Cooper Flagg in order to go secure Giannis Antetokounmpo? Or if you're Milwaukee and that call, if you're feeling like it's not going to come in, do you call the Dallas Mavericks and say, hey, you need a star post Luka Doncic, you need a young star, we'll give you Giannis Antetokounmpo, we want the number 1 overall pick, and then you work around the framework of that. What else needs to be added on in? And clearly then Milwaukee could go get a player like Cooper Flagg, who's young as you look to rebuild that team and is considered to be a great player in the league. What do you think happens first? Who do you ultimately think makes the first phone call on that, if anyone at all?
I think it would be the Bucks that make it first, knowing that their window is closing. Giannis probably wants out, and Cooper Flagg is probably the best you're going to get for Giannis at this point.
Samter, what do you think? Who makes the phone call there first?
I think, listen, Nico Harrison, we know, is not afraid to make the bold move.
Make a stupid move.
And he's made stupid moves.
I don't think this one would be stupid, though.
I do. Listen, I
really?
I love
Giannis Antetokounmpo's a multi-time MVP. Cooper Flagg, we could think he's all that. He could be Zion Williamson.
You're right. It's certainly a possibility, but every now and again, there's kind of that generational talent that comes through. And when Zion has been healthy, he's been very good when he's healthy.
Yeah.
And as long as Cooper Flagg stays healthy, we saw what he did against the USA team a couple years ago as a high school student. I'm just saying, like,
I've seen what Giannis has done in the NBA. What a championship. In Milwaukee.
True. It's true.
With Chris Middleton as his number 2.
What happens is if you bring in Giannis, what you're saying is, all right, we have this 3 to 5 year window with Giannis, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving, and then after that, we're done. If you bring in Cooper Flagg, you have a 10, 15-year window if he's as good as you think he could be.
Yeah, but Giannis's window is what, another 6, 7 years probably? And I'm not putting Anthony Davis and Kyrie in there.
I mean, he's 30, 31, Giannis?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
To be an elite player.
Right now, he's not. Yeah, he's 30. Okay.
So to be an elite player, another 5, maybe 6 years. Anthony Davis, another 3 to 4 years. Kyrie.
But is Cooper Flagg, I think Cooper Flagg's going to be good. It's potential, though. Like, I know what I'm getting in Giannis. Now, let me be clear to answer my own question. I don't think the Mavericks are making the call. I think the Bucks would have to make the call first, and the Bucks should make the call. That's what I would do. But you know who I think the better conversation is, and you know who I think will make the call? The San Antonio Spurs. You are the Spurs. Think about this. You're not getting Cooper Flagg, so you're getting one of the Rutgers players in theory. You trade the rights to the second overall pick, and then you probably have to give up either Castle or De'Aaron Fox. So you get rid of either Castle or De'Aaron Fox and the number 2 overall pick. That's the framework of that deal. You get Giannis Antetokounmpo. You get Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Wembanyama, and then whoever remains between De'Aaron Fox and then also Castle. That, to me, I think is a pretty good deal. But the only concern I would have, and clearly you would have a guard in the mix with Fox and Castle, how would Giannis and Wemby fit together? Like, I'm just curious to see how they would fit together. The star presence would be there. You got the Greek freak, and you got Victor Wembanyama, who is a freak, right? He is an alien. I'll never forget seeing that guy in New York City, sitting at the podium for the number 1, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. We all knew it. And he walked in a jumpsuit. It was the largest jumpsuit I've ever seen, and not because he was fat. Right? He even said at that press conference, people tell me I have to put on some weight and bulk up. I say skinny up. But that jumpsuit was so tall, and quite frankly, as he was sitting there, and you really couldn't see his legs because, right, he was at a podium. He looked like a floating head in that jumpsuit. He's an alien. So you could get an alien and a Greek freak on the same team with also a little Castle or a little Fox, whoever remains. That seems fun to me, but I do wonder how Wemby and Giannis would coexist on the court.
You know how I think they would coexist? Similarly to how Tim Duncan and David Robinson coexisted for the Spurs in the late 90s.
Fair.
They're two selfless players who put team ahead of themselves. Yes, they play similar positions, but Giannis can't shoot from the outside. Wemby can. So, Giannis will drive a little bit more. Wemby will post up and shoot the 3. It'll be great.
888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's go to Kevin in San Antonio. Kev, what's happening, my man?
Ain't nothing much, man. I was listening to the draft, and I was listening to what you're saying. Just imagine the Bucks will have to make the call first.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
they will have to make the call. If he comes to San Antonio and get them other 2 picks, get ready for Robinson and Duncan Part 2 because it's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen. You know, Spurs are not going to lose. They're not going to lose it out because they got a good foundation of the management.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong on that. Like that's why I continue to look at this Spurs young roster. Regardless of what they do, if they keep the number 2 pick, all right, you get another young, exciting player. If you get rid of that number 2 pick and you get rid of either Castle or Fox, and I'd be curious who they would prefer to trade. Like I know they just got De'Aaron Fox. Castle was phenomenal this year. I think Fox has like 2 more years left on his contract as well. And there would also be who the Bucks would want. But let me just say this too, because we were talking about this. The Spurs and the Mavericks, right? Would they be interested in trading the 1 or the 2 pick? If I'm Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Dallas Mavericks want me, I don't know if I want to go there. Because I don't know if I could trust Nico Harrison. And that would be a moment of resistance and skepticism for me. I don't know if you guys just caught that. I just caught a potential sneeze right on the air. I was about to sneeze, hesitated for a second, just breathed a little bit differently, and then didn't sneeze.
I heard the hesitation, didn't know why.
Yeah, no, I felt like a sneeze was coming. I've never sneezed on the air. Which it's like, just happens. Never sneezed, though, on the air.
You just jinxed yourself. It's happening in the next 2 hours.
I am. You know what I'm going to say, Stu. Who's the host I'm thinking of right now? Any idea?
Would it be Jody Mack?
Yes. Jody Mack has some legendary sneezes on the air.
And coughs.
A lot of coughs, a lot of sneezing. Yeah. A lot of years and years of coughing because of cigarettes and all that stuff. I have not had a Jody Mack moment yet on the air. Or Chris Moore that one time he lost his voice, which was crazy. Or when I used to co-host with Charlie Weiss on Sirius XM NFL Radio, and Charlie would breathe so heavily. I'd be like making a point. All right, the Detroit Lions should start this guy at quarterback. That's crazy. Overreaction, proper reaction next on the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, hour number 2 of our radio program. There is a breaking news report out there. Don Van Natta Jr., ESPN senior writer. Here's the tweet, exclusive. This was 3 minutes ago. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, my BFF, Rob, he loves me, removes Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson from MLB's permanent ineligible list. Rose and Jackson, baseball's two pariahs stained by gambling, now have a clear pathway for consideration for baseball's Hall of Fame. Too late, right? Like, Pete Rose, you could say he's a horrible human being. You could say what he did was despicable for baseball. He's already dead, right? So, like, Pete Rose getting into Hall of Fame now, so what? And you know what? We played this audio when he died, a conversation that he had with me circa 2017, when he said, I know what's going to happen. I won't get into the Hall of Fame until I'm dead. So I understand, right? Pete Rose, you don't have to love him. I'm not telling you you should condone things that Pete Rose obviously did. But is Pete Rose the all-time hit king? Yes. How can you have a Hall of Fame for all those years where the all-time hit king isn't in it? And I'll take it a step further. How can you have a Hall of Fame where a guy like Barry Bonds, the all-time home run king, isn't in it, or Roger Clemens isn't in it. And I kind of threw myself into the fire of a debate yesterday. I saw Chipper Jones, the legendary baseball player, Hall of Famer. Chipper Jones was on social media, and he was making the case. I guess someone asked him, who's the better baseball player? Is it Barry Bonds or is it Shohei Ohtani? And Chipper Jones said that Barry Bonds is the best baseball player he's ever seen. Oh, it was Ben Verlander. Ben Verlander had a tweet. Last night was pure cinema. The greatest baseball player we've ever seen with a massive game-winning home run and trolling the other team at the same time. What a time to be alive. And he was talking about Shohei Ohtani. So Chipper Jones just chimed in and said Barry Bonds would like a word. Ben Verlander said, I think Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter of all time, hands down, all around. Player, pitching and hitting, tough not to say Shohei for me. So then Chipper Jones chimed back in, and he clapped back, the Chipper clapped back. Larry ended up saying, may want to check those gold gloves and stolen base numbers on Bonds. He was a bit more than just a hitter. I hear where you're coming from on Ohtani, but he doesn't pitch enough and doesn't play a position on D to be in the convo yet, in my opinion. Now, let me be fair. Is Shohei Ohtani one of the greatest baseball players I've ever seen? Yes. Have we seen him be elite at pitching, elite at the dish? Yes. Have we seen him pitch enough? No. But Ohtani at the plate is unbelievable. Aaron Judge, though, also at the plate is unbelievable. And Aaron Judge also plays the outfield, right? Like just for starters, just for players right now playing at the same time. But I would say Barry Bonds in my lifetime right now is the greatest baseball player I've ever seen. So I have a good memory, right? And I love to repurpose content. I think content never dies, right? It's on the internet. It's there forever. And we did an interview with Alex Rodriguez back in March, where I just so happened to ask A-Rod, is Shohei Ohtani the greatest baseball player of all time? And he said, no, the greatest baseball player he's ever seen. Right? That was the way that I asked him. Who's the greatest baseball player you've ever seen? And he said it's Barry Bonds. So I repurposed that clip and threw it right under Chipper Jones' tweet. Chipper, our good pal Larry, ended up seeing it. And he quote tweeted our tweet and he said, is there an echo on my feed? So there you go. Anyway, back to this Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. I guess now this opens the door for both of them to get into the Hall of Fame. And I would assume, right, they're going to get into the Hall of Fame, right? It's a foregone conclusion at this point, I would imagine, Samter.
I mean, you really think about the terminology and the words used for Pete Rose's ban. It was a lifetime ban. His lifetime is over. And I know that sounds crass, but that's kind of the reality. And listen, unfortunately, maybe it's petty or maybe it's just the reality, but I got the feeling that baseball just didn't want to give him the satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because like you said, he did a lot of other bad things.
Oh,
he
yeah.
He deserved to be in the Hall, and the punishment for him was to never get into the Hall during his lifetime. Now that he's passed, the baseball said, okay, you know what? Punishment is over. If he wants to be, now it's time for him to be in the Hall. And we actually do have that clip from 2017.
Oh, do we?
With you talking Pete Rose. It was about a 4-minute cut, but I cut it down to the main part.
Look at you guys working hard behind the scenes right as this happens in breaking news. Not only do we have that audio, but you know what? Do I want to be a bad guy here? One thing I don't like is when people are working behind the glass, when they're on their phones, right? They're on their phones, texting and tweeting. A college buddy of mine, Greg Frank, is training today. Greg Frank just had a tweet 2 moments ago. This guy's training. There better, whenever you work on this show, there better not be any mess ups because you're tweeting right now. Shocking to see Pete Rose likely heading to the baseball hall now that he passed away. Joke. Just saying. I see everything. I'm Big Brother, and I'm watching you. You were training. You were not tweeting. You were training, not tweeting. I got to be fair. If I go after Manny Rodriguez for falling asleep during a show, I have to go even after people that I'm close with here. All right? I'm a fair guy. But, man, looking at my Twitter feed while hosting the show, and I'm like, oh, Greg Frank's tweeting. I go, who is this? Barbara Bottini running his account, doing his ghost tweeting for him? Or is this just Greg Frank's thumbs hiding behind Stu, just tweeting away?
First thing I said to him when I walked in here today was, do not have your phone
No,
out.
you didn't.
Do
You're
not,
full of crap.
do not do
You are so
anything
full of crap.
personal and private while you're in this room with Stuart Kovacs, the consummate professional.
Hey, I got an issue with the car. Hey, Mike, I got a question on the show. No, I got an issue on the car. You need me to be there tomorrow at 11 a.m.? Yeah, I'll go. I need to set up an appointment. Hey, Mike, I gotta talk to you about something about the show. Hey, by the way, I'm gonna place a large order of a pepperoni pizza. Go half pepperoni, half buffalo chicken. Oh, and make it well done. And my wife doesn't like the crust on one of the slices, so take the crust off one of the slices. Mike, I got a question on the...
Sorry, Zach, I'd respond, but I got to run to the bathroom.
Well, I will say this. I thought we had a false alarm yesterday. You ran out 45 seconds before the show started, and I said to Stu, I go, where is he going? I go, he just had an emergency last week to go to the bathroom. I go, this can't be again. And Stu goes, oh, don't worry. He's going to get his headphones, and he's coming on back. But if you had to run to the bathroom again, I would have been a little bit concerned, quite frankly, because you are getting to that age where it's a little bit tough to control yourself if we're being serious.
Listen, adult diapers are a real thing. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to get to that point in my life if I need to.
You wouldn't be the first producer to ever have to probably wear a diaper on this show.
It's a good thing we got new chairs here.
Yeah, that is true. Anyway, we have that Pete Rose audio because I know Samter's working hard. I know Stu's working hard. And I know that Greg Frank is tweeting a lot. But anyway, here was Pete Rose with me. This was May of 2017.
I kind of give up on the Hall of Fame. But as far as I'm walking on this earth or breathing on this earth, I don't think I'll make the Hall of Fame. So I've been suspended 27 years. And I hope you don't think that I'm criticizing the Hall of Fame, but I'm kind of over the Hall of Fame, if you know what I mean.
So there you go. That was Pete Rose. He basically said it, right? As long as he's walking this earth, he's not going to get into this hole. Also, right before Pete Rose died, when you had the Ohtani situation, that was another story I got thrown into. I have a friend who knew Pete Rose very well, and when he was reacting to the Ohtani situation, I called Pete Rose, I kid you not, at least 28 times in a 2-day stretch. I called him like once or twice an hour, texting, reaching out in a crazy way because I wanted to get Pete Rose on. I wanted Pete Rose and his response to the Shohei Ohtani and the interpreter with the whole gambling situation. And I didn't get a response from Pete Rose. And you know how when you're on Instagram, you get a close friends tab? So I'm on the close friends tab, and one of my buddies, right, former quarterback Josh Booty and baseball player, I'm perusing on Instagram, and I see, boom, Pete Rose talking about Ohtani. I wish I had an interpreter when I played, was his line. So I texted Josh, and I said, hey, Josh, I know this is a close friends tab. Do you mind if I post this? He goes, absolutely not. So here's the truth of what happened there. I posted it. Thing went viral. Thing blew up. Every outlet is posting and tweeting and writing articles, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Pete Rose calls Josh Booty and he goes, why would you post? Why would you send that to someone to post it? He was upset. And Josh said to Pete, someone's got to fight for you still, Pete, because you should be in the Hall of Fame while you're alive. And I agree with Josh. Like, let me be real. You could be an awful human being. You could do criminal things. You could do despicable things. You could cheat the game. Right? If you have the numbers, you have the numbers. This isn't the Hall of Fame of let's be a great person. This isn't the Hall of Fame of let's be the most law-abiding citizen. This is the Hall of Fame of baseball. And I know, right, steroids is different than Pete Rose. But when you have the all-time hit king, the all-time home run king, not in the Hall of Fame, it's a Fugazi Hall of Fame until they're in. Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose while he was alive, deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. He still deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So now this opens up the door. All right, great. But Pete Rose isn't going to be at Cooperstown because he's dead, right? So they'll put him in. Does it really do much for me? No. At least, though, you're putting the guy in the Hall of Fame, but it's way past time for him to finally get his moment. And, right, this is the first step because he's off the ban list. You know, also, we're talking about two dead guys, like, off the ban list. And now they'll be, I guess, a possibility or road for them to get into. And
Shoeless Joe's been dead for probably a century at this point, right? I mean, for the 1919 Black Sox, he's probably passed away in the 30s or something. But here's the question I have, right? With the legalization of gambling in so many states and the way that all these leagues, including the MLB...
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yes.
When do you think he died? I had to guess.
1932.
Stu?
I'll say 1937.
1951.
What?
December 5th, 1951.
Wow, he lived a long time after that whole scandal.
He was born on July 16th, 1887.
And then he came back in 1986 when Kevin Costner built that field.
Oh, I was like, where are you going with this one? he was 64 when he died.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. I figured, I mean, especially at that time, those guys probably didn't take very good care of their bodies. I wouldn't have thought that he lived that long. But
his final year playing baseball was 1920. 1920.
Right. 1919 was the scandal.
Yep. And then he passed away 1951.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you saying?
So I just wonder with how MLB...
Stop texting, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
How MLB and all of these sports have aligned with gambling and these casinos and all these other things. Is Shoeless Joe, who was part of the 1919 Black Sox scandal, and obviously Pete Rose with the gambling, is it now going to start opening up the door for players to say, okay, well, the punishment is not going to be as bad anymore. I can still get into the Hall of Fame. And now punitive, like...
No, because you'll lose your career. If you gamble, you'll lose your career for the most part.
But if you're good enough and you get found out afterwards or you gamble as a coach or whatever, you're going to
get at least a year suspension.
Yeah.
If not more than that, you could literally gamble away your entire career.
Sure, but I mean, if you're making enough money gambling and or whatever you're doing,
you now think star players are gonna gamble more because they don't think there's that many punishments?
I'm not saying that star players are going to gamble more per se, but the line between gambling and sports has already been blurred over the past 3 or 4 years, and now that two of the most notorious gamblers in sports history are being removed from the ban list, there kind of seems to be this like accepting of the gambling world that maybe...
Does Aaron Judge give a crap that Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson are getting the Hall of Fame?
No, but Jonte Porter certainly does. And it starts with a scrub player like him, and it's, eventually you're going to see better and better players do it.
You know where the biggest threat is? I don't really think it's that big of a concern for me in pro sports. And I think for the most part, stars like Ohtani and what you believe in that, I think is the closest thing you'll get. It's really, the scrubs on the professional level, but the biggest concern is college. Do you know how big some of these college teams are? And look, like the Iowa State and other situations right now they don't have in front of me. Like even my alma mater has been thrown into something like that.
Temple's been in the news a lot for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Pipe down there, Scruffy. All right? Relax.
Let's go Terriers.
No, now I got to comment on this. Can you just shut up for once? Yeah. What that dope, that anti-Semite Khan, freaking loser. Yeah, it was disgusting, and I'm glad Temple kicked the kid out of the university. But anyway, like when I was in college, do you know how many kids are on a college football roster? So if you're like the fourth string center and you have intel and you're trying to make a buck, now kids are making more money than ever in college from NIL, but how much is the fourth string center making? Probably like nothing or very little. Would you potentially gamble because it's so common? And you think, like for example, let's say if Samter was in my fraternity and I was a football player in the fraternity. Hey, Samter, here's what I'm thinking. You make these picks. I'll pay you money. You make the picks for me. Like, all right, it may not get tracked. But how many times these college players, I'll put it in my mom's name. Like, they're stupid. They're kids. They're dumb. I think college is the big concern of gambling happening with athletes. Obviously, it's happened in the professional ranks. Isaiah Rodgers, right, of the Colts and now the Eagles. I don't know where he is now. but he was just with the Eagles this past year. And Jonte Porter we talked about, but I've always thought in college it's a bigger concern than the NBA. Than the professional sports world.
But like the fourth string center, yeah, maybe there might be some intel. So-and-so's more hurt than they're saying that he is. But my concern is more the guys who are playing in the games, making an impact and doing something like that.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, gambling, knowing what they're going to be doing or game plan or watching film. And
I'm not saying it can't happen. Because obviously, right, we've had people do it before. I think it's very unlikely that a star player in professional sports, with how much money they make, is going to throw their career away on gambling on their own sport and their own games. In college, would not shock me. Would not shock me whatsoever. Because all it takes is one college kid to make one stupid decision, and we have a lot of college kids that make a lot of stupid decisions. So Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, both were dead. That's the breaking news that Commissioner Rob Manfred has removed Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson and other deceased players from Major League Baseball's permanently ineligible list. Manfred ruled that MLB's punishment of banned individuals end upon their deaths. They are now presumably eligible for election into the... That's interesting. They were banned for life. Oh, you're dead. Now you're no longer banned. It's a weird justification of it, but to your point, it's kind of towing the line of you can't fully embrace gambling and all that jazz, even though these sports have. But notice, right, the NBA has had the biggest scandal with that, with Donaghy, with the ref. If you look at it, you have a Major League Baseball team on their way to Vegas. You have an NFL team in Vegas. You have a hockey team in Vegas. Eventually an NBA team will be in Vegas, but still no NBA team in Vegas yet. But yeah, who would have ever thought we would have teams in Vegas? Who was the quarterback that had to cancel his, was it Romo? There was a quarterback that got, there was a fantasy football event or something. There was a big issue about that. And I remember how big of a stink that was. And now, right, all these leagues are in bed with the gambling companies.
Yeah, it was Tony Romo at Fantasy Football Convention.
Yeah, and let's be real. I understand the hypocrisies of it. But, there's certain things I can't do at my job. The rules are the rules. So if they tell you you can't do this, even if others do it, or even if they're making money off that, it's the rules for the employer that allows you to go make the living that you're allowed to make in this world. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will do overreaction, proper reaction next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach let you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
All right, it is Overreaction, Proper Reaction time on the Infinity Sports Network, and we hand it over to our pal, Stuart Kovac. Stu?
All right, Zach. So Derek Carr announced his retirement over the weekend, meaning that the Saints will head into the 2025 season with Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, and Tyler Shuck in their quarterback room.
Yikes! Disgusting! Terrible! Oi! I want to puke. Oh, shucks.
The trio has a combined 0 wins in the NFL, but CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones has an interesting trade idea.
One name that I'll just throw out there, Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett played with the Philadelphia Eagles last year, Super Bowl champion. Who was with the Philadelphia Eagles last year as offensive coordinator? Kellen Moore. So there's familiarity there. The Cleveland Browns have 4 or 5 quarterbacks if you include Deshaun Watson. Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett is going to get dealt at some point because they're not going to carry 4 quarterbacks on a 53-man roster. So someone is going to be expendable.
Overreaction or proper reaction, Jonathan Jones is Chris in California.
Proper reaction.
Continue.
So, overreaction, proper reaction. The Saints should trade for Kenny Pickett.
I have a Kenny Pickett update, by the way. So, I talked to Kenny Pickett, our guy Kenny, on April 14th. No, hold on. Let me go back. On March 11th, setting the foundation for him to come on the show. And he said, yeah, I would love to do it when things settle down. Reached back out to him on April 14th. And it was like, hey, we got to do it a little bit later on. Reached out to him on Saturday, right? A few weeks after the draft, settled dust, all that. get him on, talk a little Browns quarterback. Still haven't got anything from Kenny Pickett. So I think I'm getting ghosted by Kenny Pickett. Anyway, the question here, the Saints should trade for Kenny Pickett. This is a overreaction, and here's why. You have Tyler Shuck. You just drafted him in the second round. Let him be your unquestioned starter heading into this season. I don't think you need to bring in Kenny Pickett, who's a former first-round pick. So I don't think that this should be something. I understand the correlation because you have Kellen Moore there, the new head coach, and he just coached him in Philadelphia. But I don't think they should do that. The Saints should evaluate Shuck for the entirety of the season. And if he isn't the guy, and I don't think he will be the guy, then you're marching for Arch, whoever the quarterback's going to be early on in the first round of the draft. Next question.
The Bengals and star Trey Hendrickson are still far apart on a new contract and extension, and the reigning NFL sack leader held court at OTAs today. Speaking with the media for over 20 minutes, Hendrickson...
23
minutes.
How about that? 23 minutes in the media.
It's a lot.
This guy's smart, right? You give the statement to ESPN yesterday, you show up today, and you hold court with the media. And I didn't do any sit-ups in the driveway, but I at least respect this by Trey Hendrickson.
So in those 23 minutes, Hendrickson was non-committal about staying with Cincinnati.
At this point, do you want to be a Cincinnati Bengal?
Wow, that's a tough question too, because you try not to let the business become personal. I think over the last week, it's become personal, unfortunately. And when there's a lack of communication in any relationship, if it's business or a personal relationship, lack of communication leads to animosity, and that leaves my narrative only to me with no clear direction. So the lack of direction, the lack of communication is leading to things that are allowing me to think about what's going to happen more than how great they have treated me over the last 4 years.
Is there any way in your mind, Trey, that you would play this year on your current contract and just play it out? Is that even something you would even consider? Is that an option?
No.
So overreaction or proper reaction, the Bengals will get a deal done with Hendrickson before the season starts.
I heard Diana Rossini with our favorite guy, Chase Daniel. Chase Daniel, that was my impression of Chase. And Diana was basically saying they're motivated to get a deal done, the Bengals, but they're nowhere close to getting a deal done. So take that for whatever it's worth. Something tells me this is messy. This is real messy. And I know that Zach Taylor reached out to him, hey, if you don't show up, you're going to get fined. I kind of still feel like something will eventually get done. So you asked me the Bengals will get a deal done with Hendrickson before the season starts. That's the question. Does it get done before the season start, or do you wait a few weeks so that Hendrickson comes on back? Yeah, that Chris Jones situation a few years ago right up against the Lions where he sat in the luxury box. I'm going to say, I almost want to say overreaction, but I can't say it. I'm going to say proper reaction that the Bengals will get a deal done with Hendrickson just in time before the start of the season.
The Cowboys traded for George Pickens to pair with CeeDee Lamb and give Dallas one of the best receiver duos in the NFL. Now, yesterday, Cowboys COO Stephen Jones made a bold comparison for Pickens on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
We look at him, it's just two starting receivers out there. We don't necessarily even think we take him as more than a two when we were looking at the deal. Certainly, we looked at the draft, but here you get a guy who's got experience, who's had great success in the NFL. Obviously, a tremendous competitor. He reminds a lot in our building of Des Bryant in terms of his competitiveness and what he brings to the field, his edge.
So
they can hire security guards to follow George Pickens. Didn't they do that for Des, right?
I think so. So overreaction or proper reaction, Pickens can be as good as Des was in Dallas.
So Des Bryant had a run. And that was a player I was annoyed that the Patriots traded the pick to the Cowboys so the Cowboys could go get Des Bryant, because I really wanted the Pats to get him back in the day. But George Pickens so far, 801 yards, 1,140 yards, and 900 yards. 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. There was a 3-year stretch where Des Bryant had 1,382 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1,233 yards, 13 touchdowns, 1,320 yards, and 16 touchdowns. I think George Pickens is more of a pain in the ass than Des Bryant was. I also, though, think that Des Bryant's the better player. So I don't think Pickens, I understand the comparison, but I don't think Pickens is as good as Des Bryant was when Des Bryant had that 3-year stretch. So I'm going to say overreaction on that one.
The NFL released its international schedule, including games in Brazil, Germany, Spain, and Ireland. One team, however, will actually play twice overseas, and in fact will play back-to-back games in the UK. The Vikings will start Week 4 in Dublin against the Steelers, and then fly across the pond to London to face the Browns a week later. Overreaction or proper reaction, it is unfair to the Vikings to have them play back-to-back games overseas.
So maybe unfair to them that they have to be away from their families for that long, but if you're going to have to play those 2 games not in the U.S., it's better than in week 3 you're going to go play in Germany, then you're going to come back, and then in week 5 or something we're going to fly you out to London. What did you said it was Dublin and London? Is that what you said? So yeah, yes. I think just doing it back-to-back weeks, it's not awesome, but at least you're having it back-to-back instead of you do this in week 3 and then week 6, or you even say, we'll fly you out to one spot, have you come back, and then fly out like a few days later, which would be dumb. So I'm going to actually go overreaction on that when you say it's unfair to the Vikings to have them play back-to-back games overseas.
So you said yesterday that you didn't want to talk about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan Hudson anymore, but sadly...
Now I'm doing an interview with the ESPN, okay?
We're
on to TCU. We're on to TCU.
There are some updates. So first, reports say that Hudson was approached to do Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, God, no.
But is likely to say no.
Samter's like, I wouldn't mind tuning on it. I saw that look by Samter. Samter was like me when Kendall Jenner walked past me last night at Madison Square Garden. My tongue was out like I was like a happy dog, honestly.
And then today, as you referred to, Belichick joined ESPN and discussed if the attention around his relationship will be a distraction.
Time out. Can I guess what he said? I haven't heard any of this. A lot of people are interested in my personal life. Everything's fine, and we're going to do what we're always going to do, and we're going to coach people up, and we're going to do what's in the best interest of the team and try to win a lot of games. That's what I'm going to assume he did. Go ahead.
I mean, that's, really off to the side. It's a personal relationship, and she doesn't have anything to do with UNC football. I'm excited to be back in the coaches' meetings and getting ready for, June, and then August when we get to training camp. So June will be a big recruiting month for us, and then August we'll start getting ready for the season.
All right, so the current over-under for UNC is 7.5 wins.
You think when the recruits talk to Belichick, they say to Jordan, does she have any friends? Like, serious. They're close in age, those recruits. And
they are.
And Hudson's friends, I would imagine.
So, overreaction or proper reaction, anything short of 8 wins will be a disappointment for UNC in Belichick's first season.
I think they just got to be bowl eligible for me. Like, I know Mac Brown had a good job, right? They, got right in that range of, 8 wins a year. They were a good program under Mac Brown, obviously. Brought back some stability. Last year, they were a 6-7 football team. The year before that, they were an 8-5 football team. The year before that, they were a 9-5 football team. So year 1, I think people will clown Bill if he gets fewer than 8. But TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, Clemson, California, Virginia, Syracuse, Stanford, Wake Forest, Duke, NC State, I think you just got to get at least 7. So anything short of 8 wins will be a disappointment for UNC in the first season. You got to be bowl eligible. You got to get at least 7. But if they get 7, is there a big difference between 7 and 8 where I'm then saying it's a disappointing year? Personally, no. So I would go overreaction on that one.
All right. The Miami Hurricanes lost number 1 overall pick Cam Ward to the draft, but they replaced him with former Georgia standout Carson Beck, who, of course, was projected to be a top 5 pick before last season. But Beck struggled big time in Athens and suffered a torn UCL before transferring to the Canes. Well, now Coach Mario Cristobal says Beck is ready for summer workouts, telling ESPN, quote, he's good to go. He's exceeding every benchmark, end of quote. Overreaction or proper reaction, Beck can still reestablish his career in Miami and be a first-round pick.
I'm going to go overreaction. I'm not a fan of Carson Beck. I was told he was all that at Georgia, and even before the injury, he wasn't all that. He's now going to Miami, which is a lesser program, even though they are a fine program. Coming off that injury, too, I think it's problematic. I don't expect the Carson Beck to be this guy at the end of the year in a deep quarterback draft class that we're all saying, oh, you need to use a first-round pick on him. So I'm going to say that is an overreaction.
All right, last one here. NIL has gone out of control around college sports, and nobody seems to know what to do. Well, recently, former Alabama coach Nick Saban joined former Auburn coach and now U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville.
Wasn't he appointed by Trump or something like that?
He might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Stu's not a big political guy, neither am I. We'll make NIL bigger and more spectacular. Okay, we got Nick Saban here. He's the biggest and the best. The greatest.
So those two, they were pushing.
Sleepy Stu over there, just like Sleepy Manny in the morning.
They were pushing for the government to set up an NIL commission. Now, yesterday, NCAA President Charlie Baker said that he is open to the commission.
The fact that there's an interest in on the executive side on this, I think it speaks to the fact that everybody is paying a lot of attention right now to what's going on in college sports. There is a lot going on. That's not all bad, and yeah, I'm up for anything that can help us get somewhere.
So, overreaction or proper reaction, you are confident that the NCAA will be able to solve the NIL problem and fix college sports?
I'm confident the NCAA could do something right in a timely fashion, and you think it could actually be a positive thing? That's the question? This is the easiest one. Overreaction. I'm not even going to get upset. I'm not even going to yell. This is like a little, ball put on the tee, and it's like step up with the big bat and just hit a home run. That was easy. The NCAA will be able to solve the NIL problem and fix college sports. If you believe that, you know what? Meet me outside of the studio, 345 Hudson Street, when the show ends. I got a bridge to sell you, all right? Bring a bag of cash, all right? Nice bridge. Spectacular bridge. Just bring a bag of cash. That's all I'm going to say. Of course, that's an overreaction. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will come on back. One place that you've never been to that you would love to see a game at. We'll get to that on the other side. Update time first. Here, Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the door is now open for Pete Rose and shoeless Joe Jackson to be elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Commissioner Rob Manfred reinstated the two, saying their permanent ineligibility ends with their deaths. They can go to the Hall, but it can't come from the baseball writers. Instead, the election must come from the Classic Baseball Era Committee, which must approve them by 12 of 16 possible votes. Rose, of course, was banned from baseball in 1989 for gambling, in some cases on his own team. We are a long way from week one of the NFL season, but the Bengals' Trey Hendrickson said he won't play this year without a new contract. The 30-year-old is coming off a career season and entering the final year of his current deal. He's been disappointed by the lack of communication coming from the front office. The Vikings will make history, playing back-to-back weeks internationally in two different countries when they meet the Steelers in Dublin in Week 4, and then the next week in London when they'll face the Browns. NBA playoff action tonight. The defending champs are already on the brink of elimination, as is the top seed in the East. The Cavaliers are down 3-1, hosting the Pacers, looking to stave off elimination, while the Thunder host the Nuggets with that series even at 2. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Stars host the Jets up 2-1. I'm Rich Ecker.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage, no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com, not available in all states. The expected news is now official, and it's unfortunate. Shams Charania, Boston Celtics All-NBA star Jayson Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. Catastrophic season-ending injury for one of the NBA's young faces, and the Celtics with a long rehab awaiting. So not only, right, are you going to lose this series to the Knicks, Jayson Tatum was cooking last night, trying to do everything he can to get this 2-2. The time he got hurt, they weren't making the comeback. But to not only look like you're going to lose this series, then you got an injury to Jayson Tatum where he's probably out for the majority of next season, if not maybe all of next season. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But even when he comes back, how effective can he be if it's even for like the back end of a season for a team that had championship aspirations? I wonder what Boston does with new ownership coming in. What ownership does in how they retool this team in the offseason. Like, that not only eliminates you for this season, because the Knicks aren't blowing this series down 3-1, up 3-1 to the Celtics when the Celtics don't have Jayson Tatum. Like, honestly, if the Knicks blow this series now, it becomes one of the biggest choke jobs I've ever seen. It honestly may be worse than the Cavs being down 3-1 and coming on back and the Warriors blowing that. I know that was in NBA Finals, and this is the second round. It would be maybe worse than 3-0 Yankee Red Sox. That's probably still worse. But you're down 3-1 Boston without Tatum, your best player. If the Celtics somehow come back, that is an all-time gag job. Like, you know who'd be rooting for the Celtics comeback? It would be Duke, quite frankly. Because what Duke did up against Houston in that Final Four is still unbelievable to me. But horrible, obviously, with Jayson Tatum now being done for the season, but not really much else to react to because we all expected it last night when he was taken off the court. So last night I go to the game. I got to get into my night real quickly. So I get into the stadium, go right up to luxury box, pour myself a whiskey ginger, take a little charcuterie, right? Get the palate a little bit wet, right? Get the stomach a little bit full. And we got escorted down to the Delta Club, which is awesome. Like, we had a luxury box. We don't need to go to Delta Club, but it's more free food. So I go, you know what? I want a cheeseburger. I love the Garden Burger. I then also, on my way out, I'm getting sushi. And I never had the sushi at the Garden. And I've been in the Delta Club before. So I can't digest avocado. It doesn't agree with me. So I said, can I get some sushi without the avocado? So they give me a few rolls. And they go, by the way, we have sashimi too. So I was like, oh, great. You got the nicely thin sliced fish. So I put a bunch of that on my plate. I eat like 4 or 5 pieces of sushi. And then I'm eating the sashimi. So I get into the elevator. And I have one piece left. And the elevator is filling on up. We get to one floor. This gorgeous lady walks in the elevator. Like, stunning lady. And she goes, can I get a piece of that sushi? So, like, I'm just saying, like, I'm kind of joking. I was kind of full as it was at that point. I go, yeah, if you must, take it. No big deal. She takes the sashimi. She ate the piece of fish in one bite. Then goes right to my buddy. My buddy that's there has like 6 or 7 rolls. She takes a roll from him. Do you mind if I take a roll? Yeah, no problem. She takes a roll. She drops one of the rolls, one of the pieces. All the guys in the elevator are like, 4 or 5 second rule, no problem. You can still eat it. Go. Like, she was a little bit drunk, let's be real. She takes the sushi off the floor, does not eat it, puts it back on the plate, takes the next piece of sushi. It was one of the most badass things I've ever seen someone do. We're going to the 7th floor. It gets to the 6th floor. Ding! Later, boys. Have a good night. Thanks for the sushi. Everyone was just like, couldn't believe it. Now, before that, very attractive lady walked by me in the Delta Club. I knew who it was right away. I knew it was one of the Jenners. I didn't know which one. I was like, is it Kendall or is it Kylie? And then they show them, and Kendall's wearing a white top, so it ended up being Kendall. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. And then obviously watching the entire game in the luxury box, all that stuff. What an atmosphere. Because early on, Derek White popped off. You're thinking, here comes game 3 Knicks again. Just Peyton Pritchard is now Derek White. And then Tatum's cooking them. But that third quarter, that's when belief really started to happen with the Knicks. And the fourth quarter was an absolute party. And it was pretty damn cool. You know, big game at the Garden. I've been fortunate enough to be at a lot of big games at the Garden. Really never for the Knicks. But, you know, that's the biggest game in my lifetime, maybe for the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. But Marty St. Louis with the bridge shaking to put the Rangers up 3-1. The Rangers, when they got to the Cup final, was in the building for that. Other big playoff games, Game 7 up against the Capitals where Stepan scores the goal. It's always awesome to go to Madison Square Garden. So real quickly, going around the room, A stadium you've never been to. Like Stu just went to Wrigley, so that doesn't count. What's a stadium you've never been to that you would love to go to?
So it's a shame that this sport doesn't have playoffs, but I would love to see a Duke game at Cameron Indoor, especially like against North Carolina.
March Madness?
The Cameron crazies going at it. Maybe Duke having like a top talent like they did this year with Cooper Flagg. I think that atmosphere would be amazing to see in person.
Yeah. Samter?
I got a list.
Samter wants to see the lady that ate the sushi in person.
Yeah. I'm just surprised that someone was like, hey, I'll give you a piece of sushi if you give me your number. But, I guess you only had 6 floors to pull that move off.
I'm not going to touch that one. But continue.
All right. I think for me, after watching the movie Rudy.
Don't want to annoy anyone listening right now. Yeah. Continue. Just continue.
Okay. After watching the movie Rudy, I think I have to go see a game at Notre Dame Stadium.
Oh, my. I got to call a game at Notre Dame.
Oh, that'd be
awesome.
And
they thought we were the professional station. It was when I was in college. So they gave us the better broadcast booth. 50-yard line right at Notre Dame. Unbelievable to call a game from. Mine would be go Pack go. I've never seen a game at Lambeau Field. I'm a football nerd. I'm a football junkie. I'm a football lifer. I just feel like how it is kind of going to a game at Notre Dame. It's like an out-of-body experience going to a game at just an iconic stadium. They call it the legendary Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra. I would love to go to a game where it's kind of cold at Lambeau Field, but not like freezing cold where if I blow my nose, the snot becomes icicles. All right, not that cold, but cold enough. So I want to go see a game at Lambeau Field. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. Who is the next NBA star to win a title that hasn't have won before? We'll get to that on the other side of this Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Yo, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The big stories right now, the New York Knicks are on the verge of going to the NBA Finals if they find a way to get to the conference finals and then go to the NBA Finals. They're up 3-1 in the Eastern Conference semifinals up against the Boston Celtics. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but assuming that the Indiana Pacers don't blow this 3-1 lead to the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think we will see the New York Knicks, the Indiana Pacers. There's the hot take of the day in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I do think the Knicks are winning. I do, even though I love myself some Tyrese Halliburton. So the Knicks are a mega story. We got the unfortunate news, even though it was expected, that Jayson Tatum is going to be out as he had surgery today for that ruptured Achilles. You do have 2 games tonight in the association, the Pacers and the Cavs, the Nuggets and the Thunder. Pivotal Game 5 there. We'll see who takes the 3-2 series advantage. And also last night, we saw the Minnesota Timberwolves take a 3-1 series lead on the Golden State Warriors, and it does not appear right now that Steph Curry is expected to return for Game 5 of this potential elimination day for one Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Steve Kerr and company with the Golden State Warriors. Just real quickly, do you find the Warriors right now likable? Steph Curry could be the most likable star in the history of sports ever. This group, though, of the Warriors, do you find them likable, Samter? I'll start with you. We'll go to Samter first.
Jimmy Butler, I think, is not likable. Draymond is hateable. I mean, and the rest of the guys, like
Draymond's
guys like
a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, he's to me, he's
and you know what?
My least favorite player in the NBA. I hate
Steve
Draymond.
Kerr. If I'm being honest, I've lost a lot of respect for Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr, the last few years, the way that he's enabled Draymond Green to just act like an absolute ass clown. That's the nicest way I could say it. You thought I was about to say
no, I know you wouldn't do that.
That rhymes with pole that you thought you would have had to dump. No, that wasn't going to be the case. Santa's still trying to figure out what word I'm saying.
Cole?
I have not been a fan of Steve Kerr the last year. I have not been a fan of Draymond Green outside of one day. Where there was one day where I started to come around on Draymond, where I loved when he was eviscerating the league at the All-Star game. I did find that wildly entertaining. But the stuff that Draymond Green pulled with Karl Anthony Towns was despicable, so I do not like him. And Jimmy Butler, the act of Jimmy Butler is just old. Like, oh, I listen to country music, and I'm an everyday guy with my minivan. I'm not saying he was wrong in Miami because he wanted a new deal, but him saying, oh, he can't be happy in Miami is a bunch of bullcrap. You're just not going to be happy because they didn't give you a new deal. And like, oh, you got to feed your family and all that nonsense. So I'm good with, even though I love Steph, and Steph's one of my favorite athletes, period, of all time, I'm good with this Warriors team going out real quickly. So that's what's cooking in the NBA. Timberwolves look like they're going to the conference finals. We'll see if they'll get either, whatever they do advance, Denver or OKC. And it does look like we're on a collision course for Knicks and Pacers. And the first team to get the 4 games there will be going to the NBA Finals. And we had the lottery last night where the Dallas Mavericks and Nico Harrison should be looking up at the sports gods today. Or Adam Silver rigged the lottery. No, I don't actually believe the lottery was rigged, just being clear, and should be saying thank you. That's what Adam Silver, or that's what Nico Harrison should be doing today. And let's be real, I hate that Nico Harrison, who is a dope for trading Luka Doncic, I hate that he gets rewarded with the number 1 overall pick when he had a 1.8% chance to do so. But I am happy for Mavs fans because you shouldn't have to deal with Nico Harrison, so you should still have Luka Doncic. But the fact that you could get another potential young star in Cooper Flagg is good and at least gives me some moment of happiness for Dallas Mavericks fans, even though I can't stand and I despise their general manager in Nico Harrison. So that's pretty much what's cooking in the sports world. I don't think I missed anything else. Oh, Bill Belichick spoke today. So we'll play you some more of that coming up in a news brief, which will come your way in about 15 minutes on the show. And Bill Belichick talked about his girlfriend and Jordan Hudson. And oh, yeah, the biggest news. Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Rob Manfred is taking them off the exempt list, right, the ban list. They will no longer be banned, even though they're both dead. And a few others are getting taken off this list. If you passed away and you've been suspended from Major League Baseball, it was for life. Well, you're no longer living, so now you're no longer banned. And now a lot of people believe that you will see Pete Rose inevitably get into the Hall of Fame. We will do this. I know we played that cut for you earlier. I cut up a longer chunk of it. I'll send it to Samter right now so we can have it set for the news brief coming up in a bit. It was like 2 minutes and 22 seconds. We don't need to play the whole thing, just the first question and answer. It's a little bit longer of a chunk than what we played. We'll get that at some point in the news brief or some point before we say goodbye. But it's looking like Pete Rose is going to eventually get in the Hall of Fame. Now, this doesn't mean he's definitely getting in, but I think a lot of people believe the Hit King should be in. The voters had an out for all those years, and that's what they hid behind, and that's why they did not put him in. Now, this was a guy that once told me in May of 2017, and I understand why people don't like Pete Rose. Pete Rose, I'm not saying was a good human being, but in May of 2017, Pete Rose told me he knew he would never make the Hall of Fame while he's alive, and he's at peace with that. And now he's dead, and probably in short order, he will make the Hall of Fame, which is a joke to me. I don't care if you were a good person, bad person in terms of who I want in the Hall of Fame. I don't care if you cheated or you didn't. If you had the numbers and if it was accepted at the time in terms of what your numbers were, I think guys like Pete Rose, all different, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, right? They should all be in the Hall of Fame. That's just me. And how selective the voters have been. Pudge, hey, did you take steroids? Only God knows the answer to that. Oh, we'll put you in. Dope John Heyman. He voted for Pudge right away. Piazza, oh, there's innuendo. I can't vote for Piazza. You know, A-Rod's on the Hall of Fame, but Big Papi is because Big Papi was likable. It makes no sense to me. So the Hall of Fame is backwards. The Hall of Fame is a bunch of jackassery right now. And until you start putting these guys in, I don't take your Hall of Fame seriously. It's not the Hall of Fame of be a great person, right? It's not. It's the Hall of Fame of baseball, right? What your numbers were. Barry Bonds to me, Hall of Famer. Roger Clemens to me, Hall of Famer. Alex Rodriguez to me, Hall of Famer. Sammy Sosa to me, Hall of Famer. Pete Rose, Hall of Famer. Just the way that I look at it. Anyway, let's do this, because with the teams that are remaining in the NBA playoffs, assuming, right, the Timberwolves get through, assuming the Knicks get through, assuming the Pacers get through, and let's just say Denver, which is not something I'm ready to assume yet, but let's say Denver doesn't win this series and the Thunder get through. You're looking at any of those teams that end up winning the championship. Jalen Brunson doesn't have an NBA championship. Tyrese Halliburton doesn't have an NBA championship. Anthony Edwards doesn't have an NBA championship. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't have an NBA championship. Who is a young star in the NBA that you believe will be next to win their first championship? So, with that, and then guys that obviously aren't still in the postseason, we have a lot of people to consider from. So we'll do a little draft here. We'll do 3 picks each. Let's start off with Stu. We'll put you on the clock first. What's the first selection you're going to make?
All right, my first will be SGA. It could be tough this year. We'll see what happens in this series.
I'll tell you, did not like that.
Who, Samter?
Greg standing right behind you. Greg gave a look during that.
Uh-oh.
When you said SGA, or Greg was like, what? Disgusting. Can't believe that Stu just picked that team.
I mean, he's on the best team. We'll see if they get past Denver, but I think I would favor them over the Timberwolves, the Knicks, the Pacers, all of those teams. So I think he has the best chance of doing it this year.
Samter, you're next up, right in the middle. You're like the cream of the Oreo.
I'm always like the second pick, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing.
I feel like we usually give you the first pick.
No, I haven't had the first pick in years.
That's better than when you're growing up as a kid. You're probably the last pick a lot of time for these sports.
I was the third out of 4 brothers, so I was always the last of everything. I'm going to go.
You have 4 brothers?
I have 3 brothers, so I'm fourth. Well, I'm the third of 4.
Oh,
I got 2 older, 1 younger.
So you were the youngest brother?
I have 1 younger.
Okay, gotcha. You were very
2
confusing
older,
how you
1
said.
younger.
Man.
They're all boys.
Can you imagine 4 Samters? Well, 4 Samters
Oh.
line up to fight 1 Zach Gelb.
Oh.
4 Samters? Are they all like you?
All 4 of us are very
similar?
Very different. No.
Oh, different. Okay.
Very different.
Yeah.
I'll tell you some of the stories. All 4
You don't
of
want to
us.
do it on the air? All right, real quickly. Who are your 3 other brothers?
So from oldest to youngest, it goes Stuart, Mark.
Oh, Stu Kovacs is your brother?
No, I'm Stu's daddy, but that's a different story.
Whoa, what?
Yikes.
Boom.
Jeez, that was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's like Emmanuel Acho. This is an uncomfortable conversation right now.
Yeah. Don't fall asleep in the corner, Manny.
Go ahead.
All right, so you got Stuart, then Mark. Mark works in the industry as well. He works in the sports industry.
Yeah. What does Mark do?
He's a graphics producer. He does.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. Actually.
Yeah, he works for like CBS, and he does like a bunch of different stuff.
So Stu, Mark,
Michael, and Adam.
Michael, and Adam. Obviously, you're Michael.
Yes.
I thought it was weird that you
Obviously,
said
you're Michael. Yes, of course.
All right, give me one word to describe Stu. Not Kovacs, your brother.
Man.
Family feud right here. Uh-oh.
Oof. Inventive.
Innovative?
That too.
Okay.
Yeah, he started like 4 different businesses.
I will say, the pause by Samter to come up
Yeah,
with
something's
a word
going on there.
No, Stu.
There's
Stu
some
was
issues with Stu and
Stu's
Mike.
a tough one. No.
First time I haven't heard that for the first time.
Yeah. No. Stu's a unique cat, but he's started like 3 or 4 different businesses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Some of them have failed, some of them have done well, but he's a unique cat.
Mark, one word. Oh, my God.
Wild.
Wild.
Almost got expelled from high school multiple times.
I like Mark.
Multiple bouts at various different
universities.
Not universities.
Universitas.
I would say legal departments.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to hang out with Mark.
Yeah.
And then Adam. One word to describe Adam.
Nerd.
But
like a cool nerd. Wow. Like he's really big into video games, and he actually is a dungeon master. He does he actually runs a company doing D&D, and he hires people to run D&D games. Yeah, so he's a huge nerd, but he's like a cool nerd. Like he's the coolest of his friends.
When your basement was flooding or there was some plumbing issue, Adam was the one that you used as a resource.
That's
right?
correct.
Gotcha. I feel like we should call Stu, Mark, and Adam. Give me one word to describe little Michael. What do you got cooking on here?
The word would be glue. I'm the only one who's still friends with all three of them.
Oh,
none of them like each other except me. I'm like the glue that holds the family together.
We could put you guys on Jerry Springer or something like that.
The stories that I could tell you off air, holy crap.
Okay. So we learned something about the Samter family.
The Samter clan.
The Samter 4. Anyway, NBA draft, players that have not won a championship that are stars that will be next to win a championship. Stu, we've made one selection here. We have 8 more to go. And we're 13 past the hour. Man, I'm cooking today. Let's go to Samter. What do you got here?
I'm going to go with who should have been the number 1 pick, Ant Edwards.
Okay. So you take Anthony Edwards off the board. I am then going to take. I know I have one selection in mind. I'm just going to try to figure out the second one here. Okay. I got mine. I'm going to go Jalen Brunson. I'm going to take Jalen Brunson. And then I think this is a future pick, life after LeBron pick, Luka Doncic. So I'm going Jalen and Luka. Back to Samter.
Oh, man, that's tough. Because those are my next 2 picks right there. So I'm going to have to kind of go a little bit towards the odd part of my board. Just because they were the number 1 seed in the East this year, you have to believe that they're a young team. And he's been good in the playoffs when he's healthy. But who knows if he's healthy? I'm going to go Spider Mitchell.
Okay. Donovan Mitchell is 28 now. 28. So still obviously have some good years left. Okay, so you go Spider Mitchell.
Okay. 2 picks.
I'm shocked.
Yes.
There is still 1 player on the board.
So the first person I'm going with is Victor Wembanyama. I think it's probably not going to be next year, but it could be very, very soon if he is healthy. So he's my first pick there. My second pick is going to be Tyrese Halliburton. I don't see them winning it this year, but I still feel like he has such a high ceiling. Maybe he gets paired with another star down the road. So I think Halliburton could be a point guard for a championship winning team next few years.
Okay. Samter, you got one last selection.
Oh, man. I'm deciding between 2 players. One guy.
Bronny?
What?
Bronny?
We said star, right? Should I go? I'll go Bryce over Bronny. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm deciding between 2 players right now. One whose team is young and ascending. One who's a star player when healthy, but his team is on the decline. But he might not be with that team for that much longer. No, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go with the young kid who I love watching him play. I loved him out of Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham.
Ooh. Okay. So SGA, Wemby, and Halliburton to Stu. Anthony Edwards, Spider Mitchell, and Cade Cunningham to Samter. I have Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. I will not consider Joel Embiid. I just don't think his body can hold up.
That was one who I was thinking of as well, but
I may consider Joel Embiid.
Eh.
I'm not considering Trae Young. Do I go creative and go Cooper Flag? Not going to do that.
If he goes to the Mavericks, I mean, that team is built to win now. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And both those guys in that team have already won, so they're out of it.
Yeah, I you know what? I'm going to do this. Here's the thing. I want to take someone on the Rockets. But, like, Jalen Green's a star, I guess, but that seems a little premature. And they're probably going to get Durant, who then he'll kill that team's chemistry. I think that's where Giannis Antetokounmpo should be a potential destination. Man, this is brutal. This is really brutal. Because you're looking at it, I'm just trying to go. Ja Morant, Ja's got to grow up. You know what I'm going to go with? He's not going to win a championship with this team. I think he gets traded, though. I'll take Devin Booker. I'll take Devin. I don't want to go Cooper Flag. And Embiid, I don't know when he's finally going to say goodbye to Philadelphia, if he ever will do so. So I'm going to say Devin Booker right there. So NBA stars that have not won a title, that will be next to win a title. Stu, SGA, Wemby, Halliburton. It's a great list by Stu. Samter, Ant-Man, Spider Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, and your boy, Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker. Did we miss anyone egregiously? Is there a name, Stu, that you're like, don't know about?
Two names I thought of. So one, I don't know if you consider him a star anymore. He's like kind of on the outside, but Cat, I know Brunson's the star of that team, but Cat's kind of like the big contract guy as well.
Yeah, I think he's a number 2 now.
And maybe, again, this is a guy that is still ascending and I think is very good. I don't know if the Magic are ever going to hit that ceiling, but Banchero, yeah.
Yeah, Banchero's a good one.
Yeah, I was just in between Banchero, Cade Cunningham, and Embiid.
It's the shortest list you've ever had, by the way.
Well, no, as my final pick. The thing with Banchero, I think Banchero is a star. The Magic don't seem like they're close yet. They have some young guys.
They have a lot of good pieces.
But they need a number 2 with Banchero.
It's like they're the Magic. You know, I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but there's just some organizations, or even when they have all that, and we've seen them have all that before, it always feels like there's limitations, or the other shoe is just waiting to fall.
They got Wagner and they got Cole Anthony. They have like players there, but they need like a real number 2.
All right, it is Zach Gelb on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do a news brief next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All right, let's start it off with Jay Will. He was on ESPN earlier this morning, and he says that the Mavericks should trade the number 1 pick.
For a guy like Cooper Flagg, I think he needs reps. I think he needs a lot of room to grow. I'm not sure championship aspirations right away for him. Now, look, the basketball part of me loves the thought of AD, Cooper Flagg, Derek Lively in the backcourt, right? But when I look at the value, could you potentially package something like this to get a Giannis? Could you package in a one-on-one trade to get a Devin Booker? Could you get a Tyrese Maxey? If your championship window is in 2 to 3 years, could you utilize that pick and some assets to get somebody who's ready to contribute to you right now with the pressure in the West Coast?
What are you doing, Alan? What are you drinking? What do you got here?
There's some good stuff in there. I don't know.
What are you drinking this morning?
I actually don't think it's a horrible idea by Jay Will to trade the number 1 pick to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. The only thing is, would Anthony Davis and Giannis Antetokounmpo coexist together? That's the part of it that gives me some skepticism. It does. Ultimately, I don't think the number 1 pick's getting traded. I think number 2 is where it could get traded, and maybe you get Giannis Antetokounmpo to the San Antonio Spurs. Here's Joe Mazzulla, how the team will try to get ready for Game 5. Not only are they down 3-1 in this series, but they knew last night that Jayson Tatum wasn't going to be able to return this one, and it came out today that the feared was what ended up happening, and it was reality as Jayson Tatum had surgery today on that Achilles injury.
I mean, they'll be ready. I mean, that's just who they are. It's been that way. It's the locker room that they have, and they'll be ready. So, you trust the character of the guys in moments like this, and take it one game at a time.
Let's go to Tom Thibodeau. Tibbs, when he was out of a job, he would come on this network all the time. Like, anytime I would hit him up, and you want to talk basketball, of course, would love to do so. Thanks so much for having me on. Here is Tom Thibodeau playing at MSG.
We always say, we got the best fans in the world, and the arena's great, the atmosphere, but we got to make sure we give them stuff to cheer for.
Bingo!
So I think it's important to understand what goes into winning, and you have to earn your wins in this league. They're not given to you. The building is not going to win the game. Whatever the series, each game, you got to go in and put the work into winning that particular game. That's the only thing that matters.
That's the thing. I hear some people go, the ticket prices at MSG are so absurd, you don't get the true fan in there. I understand that, but that building was rocking last night with people that paid a lot of money. You have to give them a reason to cheer, and the Knicks did that last night. Let's go to Chris Finch as the Timberwolves are up 3-1 on the Golden State Warriors. Ant-Man had a strong second half. He finished with 30 points. Here is Chris Finch on Edwards' strong second half.
Yeah, I think he was one of the guys that was most vocal at halftime and realized what was going on out there and how we needed to be better. So it started with him, really, and setting the tone.
All righty, let's hear from Ant-Man on what changed at halftime.
We came out like we had won a game already, like we had won a series already, and
when we came in at halftime, Coach told us, like, man, we playing like some losers. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got a loser mentality right now.
I love him. Is there a better quote of the NBA than him? He is awesome every time he speaks. We're playing like a bunch of losers. I just love the way that he keeps it real honest. Let's go to Draymond Green. He apologized for skipping the media after last game. Listen up to Draymond.
Before I start, I want to apologize to y'all. I didn't talk the other day. I was quite a bit frustrated and very careful of, didn't want to get myself fined, but more so say something and make it sound like an excuse, struggle and lose. I didn't come up here and talk, and I felt like a coward when I got home, so I wanted to apologize to y'all for that.
You know what? This dude's got a lot going on in that cabeza. I'm not a doctor, but he's talking about how he got up there and he's like, oh, I'm sick and tired of being portrayed as an angry black man, right? That's what he was talking about when he blew off the media and only talked for like 10 seconds. And it was like, dude, we don't portray you like that. We portray you as a dirty basketball player that can't control his emotions and does stupid things on a basketball court. Now, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. You've won championships, right? You're forever synonymous with the Warriors dynasty. But there are times where, like, Draymond speaks where you just go, man, like, there's got to be some anger management issues there with Draymond Green. So, all right, he apologized. So what? Here's Draymond Green. Do they need to rush Steph Curry back down 3-1 on the verge of elimination?
No, we're not going to Superman this thing. If he's in the place where he can play, I'm sure he will, and him and Rick and everybody will figure that out, but we don't need Superman. Got to play the long game. If he can, we know he will, but there's no pressure. We got to figure out how to win whether he play or not.
No, you need him. And you need to make this manageable. And you had to win one game in the absence of Steph Curry when you already won one game to start this series, and you have been able to do so. So, if you don't win the next one, you're obviously done. If you do win, all right, you make it 3-2, and then you would think, not a guarantee, but you would think Steph could be back for a Game 6. Let's go to Trey Hendrickson. Can the relationship between him and the Bengals be repaired?
I think every relationship is repairable, right? Like I think Myles Garrett proved that. He's a great man, and he's done great things for his family, and obviously providing on and off the football field, he's tremendous. But I think that relationship will repair with time, and same with this. This is just the uncomfortable business side that we've unfortunately had to deal with for the last couple of years, and quite frankly, I think we're all spent.
Alrighty, let's keep it moving. We'll go to Trey Hendrickson again. Explains why he's upset with Zach Taylor.
A little bit transpired between me and Zach. We've tried to keep it as least amount personal as possible, but at some point in this process, it becomes personal. Being sent 30 days before mandatory camp that if I don't show up, I will be fined, alludes to the fact that something won't get done in that time frame, and that, with the lack of communication post-draft, made it evidently clear that I had to inform that this might not work out. And that's unfortunate. I don't think it was necessary. I think we all should have hoped for the best until proven otherwise. But through that, other things have transpired, like the importance of me being here in OTAs doesn't seem to be respected. But that was disappointing.
He's frustrated, obviously. The guy keeps on producing. He thought a deal was going to get done. And Burrow, obviously, has gotten paid. Jamar Chase has gotten paid. T. Higgins has gotten paid, and he hasn't. And they need him because that defense stinks. Stinks with him. How much worse is it going to get without him? You're losing 17.5 sacks. So here's the big question. How far are you willing to take this? Is Trey Hendrickson considering sitting out games?
To say I'm going to sit out or to say I'm not going to, what I can say is I'm very disappointed with the communication that's been had. It's very... Former players have walked in these shoes, and what it foreshadows is not something that I'm excited about to tell my wife and family, like, hey, I'm getting good vibes or should be happy. Those comments stink, and it stinks when the value somewhere else, because I was fortunate enough to have that trade request granted, it gave me the fortunate, circumstance to see my value elsewhere, and I'm hoping it doesn't come to that.
No, get a deal done. That's my message to the Bengals. You got a window here, get the deal done, and you figure it out down the road. Even if you just sweeten up the pot for this year, then do that and give him what it takes to get him on the field because you need him. Let's go to Shedeur Sanders. How have Browns fans been so far towards him?
It's been extremely well, I would say. I understand. Really, I feel like the Browns fans, they just want something to hope for, and they've been wanting it so long. So finally, I'm here to change that. I'm here to, actually give what they want.
And we'll see if that ends up being the case. I think it's inevitable that Shedeur Sanders is going to start games for the Cleveland Browns this year. I think they will start with either Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco. One of those guys I think will get traded or will get cut. And then you will have Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel's next up. And I do think we will eventually see, because I don't believe in Dylan Gabriel. I don't believe in Kenny Pickett. I don't believe in Joe Flacco at this stages of their careers. However it happens in the order, I don't know, but I do think we'll eventually see Shedeur Sanders start games for the Cleveland Browns this year. All right, let's go to the ice. The Carolina Hurricanes, they took a 3-1 series lead on the Washington Capitals last night. They won 5-2. This Sean Walker goal, it made it 4-2. Let's listen up to the Hurricanes Radio Network.
Hall reaches for it. He'll get it to Walker. Walker's got Roslovic with him. Walker holds, shoots, and scores! Sean Walker's first postseason goal, and it is a monster! Carolina goes up 4-2 with 3:15 left here in the third.
It's a good call. I said it's about like an 8.1. I thought that was a very good call there by Mike Maniscalco? Zach, you know how to pronounce this guy's name?
I believe it's Maniscalco.
Maniscalco?
Yeah.
Oh, sounds like Shane Falco.
Or Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yes, that as well. Let's go to the Oilers Radio Network. 3-0. The Oilers are up 3-1 in this series. They beat the Knights last night 3-0. Let's get the Evander Kane goal in the second period to make it what ended up being the final 3-zip.
Bouchard on the right. Now to McDavid. Makes a move. Gets it out to center. To Evander Kane. Down the left wing. Kane will shoot. Score!
Yes!
Evander Kane! Down the left wing! And the Oilers are up 3-0.
It's a very good call. Very solid call. I'd put about like an 8.3 right there. I like the voice crack going. And then finally, the big news today, Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson will now be eligible for the Hall of Fame, even though both are dead, as Commissioner Rob Manfred has taken them off the ban list. This was Pete Rose with me back in May of 2017. It would be impressive if we got Pete on the air today, since he's no longer living. But this is from May of 2017, when he acknowledged that he would never make the Hall of Fame while he was alive. Every time the Hall of Fame, it's up for a vote, I always am annoyed that you're not in the Hall of Fame. Do you ever think that you don't? Do you think you'll ever get in?
I don't worry about that. Listen, I made the Reds Hall of Fame last year. I got my number retired. I have a statue coming up in June. I have the Wall of Fame in Philadelphia in August. Everything's cool. I mean, I messed that up, so I'm not going to complain on your show or any other show about the Hall of Fame. I kind of give up on the Hall of Fame, although every player should want to go to his or her Hall of Fame. That's the ultimate goal. But as far as I'm walking on this earth or breathing on this earth, I don't think I'll make the Hall of Fame. So I've been suspended 27 years, and I hope you don't think that I'm criticizing the Hall of Fame, but I'm kind of over the Hall of Fame, if you know what I mean.
So that was Pete Rose with me from May of 2017, and that will conclude our news brief. Ack, I think I know you pretty well. I think I know how you're going to answer this question, but I'm just curious to hear what the answer is, because sometimes you can surprise me.
Okay.
Do you think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame?
I'm very torn on it, and I have been steadfast in saying no, but it is hard to crush the guy for the fact that he bet on baseball and tarnished the integrity of the game, when now everybody can bet on baseball no matter what, except for obviously the players and the managers. Yeah. But I still have a hard time with that. It clearly said on the wall of the clubhouse, gambling is not permitted. And there are also other things, that have come up about Pete Rose in recent years as well. Sure. So I still go by no. That is, I have a hard time with that. The fact that he did something, and you can say it's an illness, and okay, I understand that, but he knowingly did something that was not kosher. And it definitely tainted the game. It definitely affects the integrity of the game. and it's hard to get past that.
So I had a very strong inclination that you were going to say he should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the only thing for me.
Yes.
I look at the Hall of Fame. I don't obviously I care, but I don't care in terms of the Hall of Fame if you were a great person. I don't care if you cheated. I don't care if you gambled. Obviously, those things are wrong. Barry Bonds taking steroids, wrong. Pete Rose gambling on baseball, wrong. The thing I just still can't wrap my head around, it's about the stats, it's about the numbers. So for Pete Rose,
yes, it is, but
it
it's
makes no sense to
me. But
me.
unlike the NFL,
the most
there's
hits ever, he's got to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but unlike the NFL, they have a character clause, and I think that is something that is a hard thing to get past.
Well, they should get rid of that.
Well, hey, you could say that, but it's there, and it was obviously put there for a reason. But look at what Hank Aaron went through as he tried to. Mm-hmm. He had death threats as he tried to break Babe Ruth's record, and now, so this is a guy who endured death threats to try to, obviously reach a personal milestone, and one that was never reached in the game to that point. And he went through what he went through, and then you have Pete Rose, who, was responsible for his own undoing.
Sure.
So it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to get past.
Sure. And I'm not defending Pete Rose, the human being, but for me, the way that I view the Hall of Fame, it's to honor the greatest players that ever played and tell the history of the game. So put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame and say he's the hit king, and also he gambled on baseball.
But you could still tell the history of the game without Pete Rose being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but you get to that plaque. I've been to Cooperstown a bunch of times.
I've never been there.
You get to that plaque. It's weird because you go to the Hall of Fame and you will see, right, there will be displays for Barry Bonds. Mm-hmm. There will be a display for A-Rod. There will be a display for Roger Clemens. A lot of interactive stuff. There's even a display for Pete Rose in terms of, you could look him up and look at things.
Sure.
But then you get to the sacred section of the hall. The coolest part of the hall is the plaque section. And it makes no sense to me where in one wing you could see Pete Rose, but in the other wing, no, he never existed.
It's a very polarizing topic. Obviously, his ex-teammates feel one way or another about him. It's very extreme. You're either in there for him or you're not. I'm still going with not. I know that maybe I should be a little more liberal about it.
You're entitled to the opinion.
But it's hard to reward somebody and reward something that compromise the integrity of the game. I have a big problem with that. That's where, that's just a vice of mine.
And even though I disagree, you're entitled to that opinion. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on
back.
back.
My opinion. I said it.
Yeah, you did. Can I ask a question? Just because something, I saw it at the corner of my eye. What the heck happened for a minute on the YouTube stream?
It's a great question.
In 1 second, we were I went from being on the screen to then there was a room that I've never seen before in my life that I was not in. And I thought the aliens were overtaking the YouTube stream.
Either that or somebody at Newark Airport.
Yeah, oh, jeez. I've recently have flown in and out of Newark. And I was boarding a plane, and as I'm on the runway, I read, someone close to Newark Airport says it's not safe to fly in and out of Newark. Yeah. I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. Do we know what happened right there? Do we know where that was?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're haunted.
Oh, yeah?
There were ghosts floating around in the broadcast room, and dangling chains. It was very frightening.
I've never seen anything like that before. I go, we're getting hacked on the YouTube stream. I had no clue what was going to happen. All righty. We'll take a timeout. Coming back. One more segment to play. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
No, Pete Rose didn't leave to see this day, but he has finally been removed from the ineligible list. Commissioner Rob Manfred reinstated both Rose and shoeless Joe Jackson, among others, saying permanent ineligibility ends with their passing, that they no longer can do any harm to the game. Rose, of course, bet on baseball, including his own team, and was banned by former Commissioner Bart Giamatti in 1989. The all-time hits leader can only gain an election to the Hall of Fame by a 75% vote by the 16-member Baseball Classic Era Committee, which won't meet until again in December of 2027. Jayson Tatum underwent surgery for a ruptured Achilles tendon. Not only does it end his season, but puts next season in jeopardy too. Without their star, the Celtics will try to stave off elimination tomorrow night against the Knicks, while the Pacers and Cavaliers tip off in Cleveland, which is looking to stay alive, down 3-1, and Donovan Mitchell questionable with a sprained ankle tonight. The Nuggets and Thunder tip off in Oklahoma City. That series is even at 2. The Bengals haven't said much to Trey Hendrickson, but he said a lot today and said that he won't play in the final year of his contract if he does not get a new one. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All
right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Before I end up previewing these two games coming up tonight in the association, Pacers and Cavs, Nuggets and Thunder, let's just play this one more time. Here was Bill Belichick. This was on ESPN earlier today at the ACC meetings. This is Bill Belichick and all going on with Jordan Hudson and his UNC football program.
I mean, that's, really off to the side. It's a personal relationship, and she doesn't have anything to do with UNC football. I'm excited to be back in the coaches' meetings and getting ready for, June, and then August when we get to training camp. So June will be a big recruiting month for us, and then August we'll start getting ready for the season.
Mike, do you think this story's overblown at this point where the interview, right, Bill does not need Jordan Hudson holding his hand for him on that CBS interview. But now all this other stuff like, oh, he went to her beauty pageant. Oh, it's a distraction. I'm past the point of this story. I think it's overblown right now.
I mean, him going to the beauty pageant, I don't care about that. And honestly, even her at the...
That'd be a spicy take if you were like, he shouldn't go.
He shouldn't have gone. He needs to focus on football, not beautiful women. No, I don't care about any of that stuff. It's still the offseason. But, the funny thing to me is like we've heard guys like Gronk and Edelman and some of these other guys talk about how Belichick would not allow any distractions.
Yeah, it's hypocritical.
And now he's the one who's the distraction. And forget about I'm not worried about her distracting him. I'm worried about her becoming a distraction for UNC football and the players. Now they're going to have to start answering questions. Oh, was Jordan Hudson at practice? Or what'd you think about this? And eventually it could become a thing where if she's around too much or doing too much, it could become a problem.
So if it was the Boston media, sure. I don't know how many UNC football media members there are. Not basketball. And I also don't know how many of them, right? It's not like you're going into the locker room every day with college kids when they make the 3 or 4 UNC football players available a week. I don't know how many of them are going to be asking about Jordan Hudson, if I'm just being honest.
Right now I'm counting. I see about 16 different North Carolina beat writers, according to collegepressbox.com.
And how many of them are in the building every day? Is it not? Is it not
24/7 Sports Inside Carolina, the Raleigh News, Associated Press, Carolina Gridiron, Saturday Road.
And how many of them are going to be asking the spicy questions about Jordan Hudson?
And listen,
I wouldn't say many.
I would imagine that if she's the story, then that's going to be a part of the narrative.
Come September, August. I don't think you ask the kids, right? They're still kids. I don't think you ask them about Jordan Hudson. I think you're asking more Bill about Jordan Hudson, and Bill will just look you in the face and then never talk to you again. So I think this story's overblown at this point. Do you guys, any of you guys, believe that he's not going to coach a game at UNC? Like what Pablo Torre was floating out there the other day?
If there was still an NFL coaching opening, maybe he would jump ship when his buyout went down to $1 million. Yeah. But if there was really a good NFL job, a $10 million buyout wouldn't have deterred him anyway.
Stu?
He will be there. He'll be coaching this year.
Yeah. I also find it funny. The Falcons, sorry to talk about them in this regard, but I do think they made the wrong decision in bringing in Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick because Arthur Blank was a coward and he kept on just listening to guys that were afraid to hire Bill because then they thought their job would be at jeopardy. But anyway, I find it funny how some of the Atlanta media are like, oh, we dodged a bullet. Did you really? Like, I'd still rather have Bill Belichick over Raheem Morris. I'd rather have Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson over Raheem Morris. That would be how I would respond to them. Anyway, the games tonight. Call me crazy here. I think most people would pick the Thunder to beat the Nuggets. There's been a lot of criticism of Nikola Jokic in the last few days. I think the Nuggets are going to win the game. I think the Nuggets are going to go Oklahoma City. They're going to win the game. I think they'll go up 3-2. I'm not saying they'll win the series, but I think they're going to go up 3-2. That's my bold prediction for tonight. I'm going to trust the Joker. Pacers and Cavs. I think Donovan Mitchell's playing. He was at shoot-around today. He participated in shoot-around, so I think he's going to play after suffering that ankle injury going into the third quarter of Game 4. But I look at Pacers and Cavaliers. Oh, boy. What do you think the spread is of this game real quickly? Take a guess. Pacers, Cavs at home, 3-1 is this series. Stu, what do you think the spread is?
Pacers by 3.
Samter? What are you typing up? Looking this up?
Well, no, I'm looking up to see, I'm looking up to see if Donovan Mitchell's status has been updated.
He's gonna play.
So,
he was at shoot-around.
Yes, but it still says unsure. So it seems like he's gonna play. I'll say if he's gonna play, I'll say Cavs by 1.5 at home.
Cavs are an 8.5 point favorite. Cavs are gonna win the game. Cavs are gonna win the game. It makes no. I'm just checking. My eyes aren't bad or anything. I'm not getting
8.5.
8.5 on ESPN right now.
I'll take that
8.5
money.
favorite. That's begging to plus the points with Indiana. That makes me think that Indiana doesn't show up. They said, let's just go back to home. I'll take the Cavs to win the game. So I'm going to say Cavs win and the Nuggets win. That's what I'm going to end up saying tonight. All righty. That will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Oh, perfect timing right there. Music hit right there after giving the take. I didn't even attempt to try that. All right, we'll be back tomorrow on a very busy Wednesday show. Big thanks to Samter. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to the texter, Greg Frank. Big thanks to Act. And big thanks to each and every one of you. We'll talk mañana, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.